I think this is a pretty good opening slide. Life's not fair, and neither is new business. So let's just get that out of the way. The intent of today's presentation is to really face the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is your competition. And in working with the various types of media, ad tech, and agency clients that we do here at The List, I get a pretty interesting perspective of the different tools and resources that our most successful clients are utilizing to hack new business and really to make their the best use of their time and resources. So it's really going up against the 800-pound gorilla of your competition. And today's really set up to help you even the odds. So my objective is to provide you some best in practice tools, aside from the really obvious ones, that are readily available, and it's just a small sample of the materials and the tools and resources that are out there. But this is the sort of top of the list of things that I and many of our clients have been using that have seen great success. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit of a story about myself. I'm obviously not from the US. I'm an Aussie, born and bred, and that's not a picture of myself, but it did reflect me at about the ages of 9 or 10 years old. As a young kid, picture this for a moment. I'm running down to the beach, waiting for the perfect day, perfect surf, and I get there, and there is the most perfect set of waves rolling through, and I'm talking big surf, not the like the Florida knee-lapping sort of surf that you get here, but big triple overhead surf. And I'm 8, 9 years old, no more than 4 feet tall, thinking this looks like day of dreams are made of. And it's already 5:30 in the morning, the sun's coming up out on the horizon, and the prize is getting from the beach to the lineup. And there's already a few guys out there. They're sitting out in the lineup, and that really is the prize. So eager as mustard, just like a business development person, I run straight towards the water, down the beach, jump in and paddle, or attempt to paddle, straight out to the prize. I'm sure we've done this multiple times in our business development careers, but certainly I'm sure I'm not the first. So I'm paddling out, I'm doing my best, and within 5 minutes I'm exhausted. I have moved about 10 feet out towards my prize, and I'm getting smashed in the shore break. Absolutely smashed. White water, 10, 12 feet high. That prize is slipping further and further away. My ego is dropping a little bit. My arms are feeling like lead balloons. I'm really not making any progress, and after about 15 minutes of no movement forward toward the prize, I turn around and head back towards the beach, get out feeling deflated, and I'm sure we've all felt that on new business pitches and during prospecting. So I walk back up the beach, and I'm looking back out at the prize sitting out there in the lineup and trying to figure out how those guys did it. And it occurred to me after about 10 minutes of this that what I really needed to do was just observe others in the environment around me, and look for the opportunity to, which may not present itself initially, to be more effective in how I was actually going to reach that prize. So I stopped for 5 or 10 minutes and watched. And what I saw was that the more experienced guys, and the guys that were getting out there with very little effort at all, were actually walking 500 yards down the beach towards what appeared to be a very dangerous situation up against the rocks of the headland and jumping in the riptide. The riptide was like taking a magic carpet ride right out the back without having to make more than a couple of strokes on the surfboard. That lesson has been retaught many, many times over the years, and I think what it really illustrates is that the eagerness to reach the prize, especially in business development and sales, often leads to getting smashed in the shore break. Whereas all it may take is attending sessions like this and working with your peers and looking at the environment around you, the tools and resources that you have available to reduce the effort that goes in and be much more effective in the way that you go after those prizes. So in looking at and applying that to today, we're certainly in a digital age and generation of digital tools and resources, and I'm going to focus on those digital tools today to give you more of a perspective on the environment that's around you and how it's constantly evolving. All of these tools I've been utilizing in really the last 6 months. So they're certainly new, and they've all been introduced to me by people that we work with, agencies, ad tech, and media clients, specifically for the express purpose of business development. What it requires is a little bit of a shift of thinking, and therefore today's surfing lesson is, as I said, sort of the latest unexpected resources you need to know about to identify and win more new business. And ultimately, I hope the little surf story there makes it a little bit more memorable. Grandma here certainly gets it. I know plenty within the business development world feel that the digital tools are for a much younger audience, but the UX and the design of these tools is much more intuitive than it used to be. And certainly the ones we're going to look at today speak volumes into the progression that we've been able to see in this industry. What I do recommend is that you don't try and implement all of these tools all at once. What I'd like to see is that you take just 2 of these tools within the next 48 hours and take them for a test run. What I find is that if you try to take on all of these tools, and we're going to cover 6 or 7 today, if you try and take on all of them at once, you'll fail. I've seen it time and time again. So just pick 2, look at the 2 that might be most appropriate to you in your organization and toward your business development methodology, and take them for a spin within the next 48 hours. So by Friday afternoon, the commitment is that you've tried a couple of these things, and if those 2 don't work, switch to another 2. So I'm going to talk a little bit about threading. This is about finding not only the who to call, but the most important part of proactive business development is the when and why to call, so the reason and the timing, as well as the who to call. So the threading of that storyline is where we're going to be using as our storyline for this conversation. So I'm glad that we're all listening and we're ready to actually dive into the tools. I gave you quite a bit of a setup there, and it's certainly better than just rolling the dice. So today's storyline. First tool, Gauge In. This is probably one of the most disruptive tools that I've come across in the last 6 months. It's a free tool, or the free version is actually very good. Think about Gauge In as they have right there on their homepage. It's like Google Alerts on steroids. Specifically for sales and business development, I'm actually going to jump out of this and put it up on screen in a live environment for you guys. Gauge In allows you to search for companies. It allows you to search for brands. And what it allows you to do, what I really like, and what I'm sure will appeal to you guys if you're not already using this, is that you can look at selecting things by trigger points. I'm a big believer that there are trigger points that lead to a business need, and therefore an opportunity for all of you guys on this call. What I like about Gauge In, apart from that it's a complementary resource for all intensive purposes for you guys, is that you can look at sorting by business challenge, compliance, funding development, growth and expansion, hiring, recruiting. You don't have to be a Google expert in writing algorithm strings for Google Alerts. You can basically just follow companies. Let's look at a recent one that I was looking at. Elizabeth Arden. Now let's look at Elizabeth Arden here for a moment. What I'm able to see is a little bit about the company, a little bit about the ownership, the industry, specialty, basic contact information. Now what I'm really interested in from a sales perspective is actually what's going on there. I can look at all of their current news by new contracts were added 2 hours ago, business challenges 13 days ago, new offerings, compliance, personnel changes, really good information. I can also toggle events and tweets. What I like about this is that for my business development opportunities, I want to look at where there are CMO, CEO, CIO changes, and I could certainly add more specific updates on that as need be. So Gauge In is a really good tool of being able to set that up and follow companies specifically under categories that you feel might be good triggers for you and your business development team. One of the things that's quite often overlooked as a business development opportunity, and what I also like about Gauge In is it's quite often overlooked because it's the organic side of things, which is just tagging and following your own clients. In the last 6 months alone, we have had clients of ours rave about just the idea of following their own clients on a platform like Gauge In. Let alone LinkedIn, more holistically on Gauge In, being able to look at their client base and see what's happening in their client's business in real time. Not waiting till the monthly or quarterly update call from a business B2B perspective. It's certainly in real time, and from an account management perspective, if you've got your existing account teams looking at this data on a regular basis, knowing what's happening in your client's business, is a really good way to generate more revenue from existing clients using a platform like Gauge In. The paid version just syncs with your Salesforce instance. And for those of you who are on the call that use Salesforce, that might be worthwhile looking into as well. So that first platform, GageIn. The second resource that I wanted to talk to you about gives you a little bit more insight. So I find GageIn's great for getting that initial point of interest or that curiosity or being able to put the dots together. What it doesn't do is interpret that data. So you still require, especially for lower-level business development people or people who are really just getting into sales that don't have the experience in being able to connect all the dots. You know, if you've got a falling share price and a new CMO and a new agency in place, or you don't have a new agency in place, what are the different types of opportunities that present themselves along those lines? Really, from my perspective, the ability to tie all those things together and give a recommendation. It's making the information more actionable. So from an actionable perspective, wouldn't it be wonderful if there were an app that would tell you something like Land's End Agency Review Likely, they've got a score of 83, they've just appointed a new CMO after being spun off by Sears. I'd click that, and it would certainly be one of the Amber alerts that I'd have set up on my cell phone. Well, we're not far from that, and one of the platforms that's actually, one of our platforms is Daily Vista, and I see Daily Vista as one of the trumps in business development and being able to take analysts' predictions, just like on the stock market, and apply those same principles to the propensity or the probability, of an account to go into review and putting the dots together, connecting the dots for business development opportunities. I'm going to spend a little bit of time, about the same amount of time, just jumping into Daily Vista here. So I'm going to go back to the live environment of Daily Vista today. As I said, I'm a big believer in triggers, and Daily Vista is certainly on the trigger path as well. We look more specifically at triggers. I'll bump this up a little bit for you guys. Triggers around decision makers on the move, expansions, mergers and acquisitions, product launches, spending shifts, emerging companies, IPOs, and so on. These trigger points are proven to generate the types of opportunities and present those to our client base on a daily basis in real time. So this is a publication that's produced in real time, and it's exclusively behind a firewall. So this is a pay-for-access platform, but it's certainly very unique in the industry, specifically in the ad tech, media, and agency space. We also track all accounts on the move, industry news, so you're able to set up alerts by category. But probably the most exciting, and by region, of course. One of the most exciting areas that I'm sort of getting to is the predictions and forecast side of things. Actually looking at something like an account in jeopardy, Elizabeth Arden, rather than just looking at the information that was on GageIn and drawing that conclusion yourself. Daily Vista actually talks more specifically about the brand, the opportunity, fragrance launches, skincare launches, global repositioning, a localized approach which is underway, what their competitors are doing, their marketing spend, agency relationships, and our take. So in addition to that, not only the why and when to start establishing a relationship with Elizabeth Arden, you certainly also want to know the who to contact. And Daily Vista provides all of the key contacts at that organization, plus their phone lines and guaranteed verified email address. It integrates directly with the list online, and is a great resource to be able to look at that more actionable intelligence, given the insights that's around the opportunity. It also, by clicking here, it takes you to the list, but we're not going to address the list today. So this platform is the second platform we're going to be we've looked at today, Daily Vista. So that's a little bit about weaving the story and connecting the right dots in terms of being more tactical in business development. So we talk a lot here at the list and present on a lot of topics around the differences between strategic and tactical proactive business development. The strategic side is more of going about generating a proactive marketing program as part of your proactive outreach. The tactical is more about what's actually happening in real time. And both GageIn and Daily Vista are much more tactical tools than strategic. So I highly recommend you take a couple of those for a test run after this session. Now, quite often, I know we all know the matrix, right? But it feels like you're swimming through a pool of data when you're actually trying to go out and do prospecting. certainly working in a CRM or working off an Excel spreadsheet, maybe all the post-it notes are around your screen. LinkedIn also starts to get that way in many respects. You don't necessarily know everyone in your network. And one of the things that I really like that LinkedIn has done over the last couple of months is enabled organizations to look at and harness the power of their teams. So not only the people within your individual network, but harnessing the individuals within your organization. So if you run a 5-person sales team, what you're able to do is look at the relationships of all of those people within your 5-person sales team, or your 50-person sales team, or 500. So it's basically putting turbos on your networks. I really like Sales Navigator Team Link. It's not an inexpensive addition to your LinkedIn account, but it is a very effective one when you're looking for the degrees of separation between you and your team to your most ideal or most sought-after prospect. The one I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about, because I think LinkedIn's done a really good job of this, but there's another platform out there called Relationship Science, or RelSci. And RelSci is a platform, again, it's a paid platform, but this is probably one of the most powerful platforms I've seen in relationship mapping to date. So again, it'll take a look at your existing team's network and map that up against several 100,000 contacts within the C-suite of organizations on a global basis. So in short, what it provides you is the shortest path between you and your most ideal prospect, and what I really like about it is the design aspect. So I can quickly see my path to whomever it may be, and they're ranked from shortest possible relevant path to longest path by people within my organization. So it's not just my paths, it's all of my extended relationships. So up here on the top right-hand side, you can see, in this example, I had 249 relationships that were relevant in this case, but I have 131,000 extended relationships with my team. It's also got a really good power search piece of functionality, so I can look at careers and boards and education investments, those who provide donations, so the sponsorship space uses this platform a lot now. There's also it's available on the App Store, so there's a really good app for your phone, and of course it integrates with Salesforce as well. So relationship science from a team perspective on harnessing the power and the relationships of your team's network, I highly recommend taking a look at relationship science as a platform over LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is also quite powerful, just not quite as. So relationship science, great tool, and one worth certainly having a look at. These guys have grown pretty exponentially over the last 12 months, and I don't expect that to slow down at all as they're pushing into the agency and ad tech space quite well.
Dave, we've got some good questions coming in from our audience. Before you go on to the next item, could you talk for a moment about the cost for Team Link and also for Daily Vista?
I'd love to. Could we leave that to the end, Fergal? Because there's a wrap-up slide where we can jump into the ballparks. But basically, they're all the two tools, Daily Vista and LinkedIn and Relationship Science, actually, are all on subscription bases, and they're all contingent upon a number of users. So it'll just take a little bit of time to get into the nitty-gritty of pricing, but I can certainly cover that.
Thank you.
This is actually probably one of the, and this is not a biased comment, guys. This is actually one of the best solutions that I've come across in a long time because I face the same challenge internally. Having come out of business development and sales roles and moving from organization to organization over the years, the most frustrating thing when I first get into the organization is getting an audit of the assets, the marketing assets and the proposals that have happened with my predecessors. And I know firsthand of that frustration. I also know of it from just working with our client base. Business development people move around. I know you guys move around. And I'm sure you've come across the same frustration. And I'm actually also certain that you haven't left your last organization leaving the archive of business development resources, marketing assets, and so forth in the cleanest, of and pristine of condition. So it's sort of like navigating through a maze when you first start, and in fact, it's probably like navigating a maze even today, going through your server and looking for a specific document that may have been created by you or one of your team in the past. So this tool is replaces this. This is an example of an agency's business development archive of pictures, P-I-T-C-H-E-S, just in case there was a challenge with my accent. So you can see on in duct tape on the side a couple of those. These are the archives of all the materials for a particular pitch. Try finding that. That would be my worst nightmare, walking into an agency and actually seeing that. Actually, scrap that. If it was in manila folders, that would be my worst nightmare. So maybe this is a step slightly above. But certainly of very little future value. They're sitting in storage lockers on hard drives like that. So there is a better solution, and it gives me great pleasure to talk a little bit about Docurated. I've used Docurated for a couple of months, and I think it's phenomenal. But where my partner on this call, and who Fergal will introduce again, is going to walk through Docurated a little bit and actually hand control over there, because I'm by no means a resident expert, but I am able to use it for my own presentations and find things very quickly. So Docurated as a platform, certainly an essential tool for me and for many of the clients we're working with. I'm going to hand it over back to Fergal to take control here and take it for a spin, guys.
Dave, thank you very much. Also, to our audience, please keep your questions coming in. There's going to be time at the end for Q&A, and we'll make sure that Dave and Dan are available to answer all your questions. Now I'm going to hand things over to Dan Catamaris. Dan is Docurated's Senior Customer Success Manager, and he's going to spend about 5 minutes showing you the Docurated solution.
Beautiful. Thanks, Fergal. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, so as Fergal said, I'm one of our Senior Customer Success Managers here at Docurated. And the problem that we're setting out to solve is one that Dave really highlighted well, which is that content repositories, regardless of what they are, have really become too cluttered to use. There are an enormous amount of really good assets and good content in servers, in local desktops, in cloud storage solutions. But the file and folder systems have grown so massive that basically it's impossible to find anything in there unless you're the person who actually set up that system. So what we aim to do is provide a really intuitive, really simple way to search through those documents, resources, and assets. And we're often described as being like Google for business documents. So I'd like to show you what that looks like. So what you're looking at right now is an actual Docurated instance. And what you can see here right away is that all of your files are really visually laid out. And it's really, really simple to see the content of those files in high definition without having to actually open or download a single file. What we do is layer over a multitude of different content repositories, including servers, local desktops, cloud solutions, it doesn't matter, and aggregate all that content into one place. And you can, again, search through that content really easily. And you can also open documents directly by clicking on this button here. What I'm doing is actually opening that document directly from its original source in its original format. But really where the power of Docurated comes from is, again, our ability to be like Google for business documents, to let you search through that content in a really simple, really intuitive way. So let's say we're working on a pitch for a major telecommunications company, and I know that there's been some good content put together in past years on recent stats on mobile adoption. What I can do is just do a search for mobile adoption. And what Docurated does is actually read all of your documents page by page and word by word, so that when you run a search, what you're getting are results that contain those search terms, and you actually get individual pages, not entire documents. You're able to look at that individual page. You're also able to look at the entire document that that page comes from. And then from there, what I can do is actually extract individual pages from multiple different documents. I can even extract individual objects. So let's say I only wanted this chart on social media and smartphones. I don't want the rest of the material on this PDF. Normally that would be really, really difficult to do. But with Docurated, I can simply click on Extract Objects. I can highlight just the objects that I want and then extract them to my clipboard. And again, we can do this over multiple different file types: PDF, PowerPoint, Word documents, Excel, images, videos. So then from there, I've gathered together all of this content. Now what, right? Docurated isn't just about finding what you need. It's actually about enabling you to start working with that material right away. So I pulled together some of these good slides on mobile adoption from multiple different files. And then from there, I can access them on my clipboard, and I can really easily either share them out with colleagues internally by email, or most powerfully, I can download them into PowerPoint, PDF, or Keynote. So again, I can run a simple search, grab together different pages from different files, different file types, and then pull them all down into a new document and start working right away. Now, Docurated doesn't just work when you're looking for something simple. You can also be doing a really high-level search, searching for something like strategy, where we get almost 4,000 hits here. And you can use a lot of our filtering options to try to narrow that content down. So for example, I can use a custom date range filter. And for example, I could only look at slides, or documents rather, that were modified sometime in the last 3 months, and really, really narrow that content down. So it's a really, really useful tool for making sense out of the clutter and ultimately saving you a lot of time. Not just finding documents that otherwise would take you a really long time to find, but even just finding things that you didn't even know were there in the shared drive to begin with. So that's really the basic overview of Docurated. There are a lot more advanced features. We have the ability to pull in content from the web directly. We have the ability to tag content into different topics. All kinds of really cool features that we'd love to show you more of at a later time. So without any further ado, I'd love to pass the presentation back over to Dave. So Dave, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter again.
I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. We've got some good questions coming in. One of our audience participants, Dan, would like to ask you, how do you get all your documents into the Docurated system?
Beautiful, great question. Thanks so much. So it's really simple. I'll show you this right here on my own desktop. We have a very lightweight application that can be installed on local desktops, on servers, and I can just open up my preferences here, and I'll actually show you this is the setup of my own Docurated sync. So I'm pulling in content from my desktop, my Dropbox, my Google Drive. That can be configured to point at whatever repository you'd like. So that's the simplest way of getting content into Docurated. Again, there are a bunch of other options as well. Having a bit of difficulty with my computer here, but you're able to pull in content directly. and also more advanced features like being able to email content in.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. And I like your desktop picture as well.
Yeah, thank you. Mac has good photos.
One more question for you, Dan. Could you talk for a minute about how do you set up a system so that different teams so that there's segregation or security across different teams at an agency?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's not a great graphic for me to show here for this, but just to walk through it, our permissioning model is really simple and also really flexible. So we're able to share given folders or given files to given teams. So at a lot of our clients, we have a new business team, a marketing team, an HR team, and they're all able to see their own folders. One of the other things we do is mirror a lot of existing permissions. So for example, Active Directory. If any of you are using Active Directory to manage your files permissions on Windows servers, we're actually able to mirror those permissions directly. And a lot of our clients do take advantage of that, so that basically any user at the company can log into Docurated and leadership can be assured that those folks are only seeing the content that has been permissioned to them.
Thank you, Dan.
Of course.
And with that, let's pass it back over to Dave. And as Dave is getting set up again, we have one very interesting question, Dave, that I'd like you to take. So
Sure.
we have an audience member who works in nonprofits and targets socially responsible businesses, and this person is wondering, are the solutions and tools you're showing today appropriate for those types of markets? And if not, any suggestions on what people in the nonprofit world could be using?
In short, yes. We work with a lot of clients in the nonprofit space, sponsorship and nonprofit. I would say that certainly gauge in. You can follow any organization, any company, and look for the key types of opportunities for social responsibility by keyword. You can also do that. I know Daily Vista does a lot of coverage in the sponsorship space as well, looking at CSR initiatives and so forth. Obviously, Docurated will allow you to put those presentations together to go and pitch those organizations, and the last couple I'm going to cover will certainly cover those as well. In looking for contacts in that space, The List, which is the larger organization of which I work with, is certainly set up for that, as well as one of our partners, IEG, which runs sponsorship.com. That's a great resource to check out as well.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks so much, Dan. I think that that was a really good overview of the platform. I think that I'd reiterate the importance that Dan sort of noted there, that I find that Docurated for me and the clients that we have used Docurated find it's probably one of the best time machines out there. You know, under the definition of time machine, certainly saves me hours a month in terms of being able to put the materials together in a timely fashion and actually come across things I forgot we even had. So rather than recreating the wheel. Certainly it allows me to get stuff across from my desktop, which is not quite as tidy as Dan's, our file server and Dropbox. So certainly a good platform for me. One of the questions I get here at The List quite often is around email marketing. I talk a lot about the different platforms, from standard email marketing from a business development perspective to full-blown marketing automation platforms. So the differences between something like a MailChimp and a Constant Contact versus a Marketo, a Pardot, ExactTarget, all up to an Eloqua. What I thought I'd concentrate on here is a lower cost option, which I've been using myself and many of our clients have been sort of switching to for one-to-one communications. So much more of that tactical business development, but being able to, again, have a time-saving device to make you more efficient and effective in this space. So I'm going to talk about, going to introduce you to two of these platforms, and I'm going to go into one in a little bit more depth. The first is called Signals, and it's a HubSpot product. It's basically a product that is very, very similar to the next one I'm going to talk about, but Signals works across more email platforms like Outlook, Apple Mail, Gmail, and so forth. The one that I'm using has very similar functionality. It integrates with Salesforce and Gmail specifically, and running on Gmail here at the list, I find that Yesware is a better solution for us. The basic premise of Yesware is it gives me the ability to track and add emails, so track opens and responses to my emails out of my Gmail account, as well as have predetermined templates and have all of it tracked and automatically loaded into my Salesforce account as a record. So I'm going to jump out of here and just bring up an example of that, because I think that probably speaks the best to it. Fergal, if I'm to write you an email, pretty straightforward. What I might want to do is send you a template of, let's say, a pipeline email. So quick insert. So this could be paragraphs long, but some initial ideas on a solution for you, already pre-populated. You're a great guy. Take some creative license here. The most important thing that I love about this platform, one, it's $10 a month, so $120 a year versus thousands of dollars for a full-blown marketing automation suite. Very cost-effective, especially for the participant in the non-profit space. I can track. It's got the same functionality to track email opens and click-throughs. I've turned the link tracking off, but I can certainly turn it on to see who's opening my emails, whether they're forwarding it on, and so forth. I can set it to a reminder, so I can set myself a little reminder. So it's got a little bit of basic CRM functionality. I can set it up to send this particular message later at any point in time. I can attach a file and track when it's opened by the recipient. And most importantly, the biggest time-saving vehicle for me is having this particular email logged in my Salesforce account under Fergal as a contact. So this is, rather than the Control-C, Control-V into the contact record in Salesforce, this makes sure that I have all of my content loaded into Salesforce without having to even think about it. So keeping accurate records from myself and my sales team, this is one of the best low-cost investments that we've made and some of our clients have made for one-to-one email communication syncing. There's a lot of different platforms out there. This seems to be the most. This and Get Signals by HubSpot are the two that are pretty much on par, depending upon the different types of functionality that works best for you. So I'll close this for a second. In fact, I'll send that to you, Fergal, because you are a great guy. One of the things I can see here is all of my messages that have been sent, not opened, opened, not replied, clicked, sent to CRM, scheduled, reminded. Even tells me creepy little stuff like the last one that I sent to a client of ours and opened it on a Mac in Colombia. That's a little bit more information than I needed, yet it's there anyway. So a little bit there on Yesware as a platform. Great platform, really like it. And the other option is Signals by HubSpot. Two at $10 a month. They're great little tools there for one-to-one email marketing, using templates, and getting it all logged into Salesforce.
Dave, how is Yesware different from sending emails directly out of Salesforce?
What I like about it is that I've got it's very similar, but I find that the platform's a little bit more robust. So Salesforce's instance is pretty good, but the frustration with Salesforce is that you're working in two different environments. You're still going to be working in your native email application, whether it's Gmail or Outlook, whatever the case may be. And I don't want to be switching back and forward from. I find there's some challenges with going back and forward between the platforms, having all of your mail indexed in two areas. So for us and the clients that have used Yesware and Signals, that's been their sort of feedback. They'll still do campaigns out of Salesforce, but more one-to-one they'll do quite often out of one of these two applications.
Thank you, Dave. Dan, we had a question from an audience member about Docurated. They're asking, are there limitations on the amount of documents or data that can be stored within the system?
Great question. No, there are no limitations on the amount of document or data that can be stored. We have some clients that find it a lot of use with it, with a very selected set of, a couple hundred documents. We have other clients that have processed hundreds of thousands of documents, terabytes and terabytes of data.
Fantastic. Dave, another question that came in from the audience, and then I'll turn it back over to you to finish out the remaining slides. And this might be an idea for a future webinar that we run, but people have been asking about resources or tutorials to get more tips on how best to use the list online.
Tutorials about the list online, we run on a regular basis. We actually do a lot of one-on-one. So the offer to the audience today is that I happily get those set up for both the list or Daily Vista at any point in time, whether you're an existing client or a prospective client. We run those every day, dozens and dozens of them. So certainly just if you're a current client, you can log into resources and contact your account manager. They're set up for your success. That's their primary responsibility. And if you're a prospective client and would just like to have a look around and look at some use cases of how to best utilize the resources here, I'd be happy to take those myself or to direct you to someone who has all the information that you may need in their particular area of specialty.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I think just in terms of putting this all together, and that's a perfect segue really in what are the best use cases. As I said at the beginning of this session, it's really the best use cases are to continue to experiment with these types of tools. There's no one way that this is going to work. What we try and do through our educational series is provide different ways that different types of clients are using these tools. So the follow-up to this session, we actually start to pull apart these modules into specific use cases. But I find quite often that there's some education that needs to happen about who it is that we're talking to, and a very much smaller, more intimate audience in today's session with such a vast number of participants. So really, it's to get the ball rolling. It's to really refine the types of tools that you're using over time. I just love this image. It's fantastic. But it's really about making a constant refinement. It's that test refine methodology, and that all of these tools should be experiments. As a marketer, true and through, I really believe that you've got to constantly be aware of your environment and proactively spend time talking to those in your organization and those outside of your organization, your peer group, on the tools that they're using and they're finding most effective. I'll often just ask the question at a conference: what's the latest tool that you're using, the latest digital tool you're using that's really disrupting the way that you conduct business development? And I come away with huge learnings just with that one simple question. So the test refine methodology, especially when it comes to the resources that are out there, will save you significant time and energy in prospecting and business development. So the survey says, as I mentioned, that you really want to just pick two of these things and take it for a run within the next 48 hours. What I've done here on this next slide is put both in order of the presentation today, GaugeIn, Daily Vista, RelSci, TeamLink, Docurated, Yesware, and Signals. The links to those various websites, and a really basic just little blurb about each one. So if we were to talk about Docurated, find, organize, and use your best content. Google like search and image display by page for your new business server. Daily Vista, curated alerts on when, why, and who to build new relationships with. So you've got that sort of quick reference guide, which, as Fergal mentioned, will be distributed as part of the follow-up to today's session. Now, we've just looked at a few resources today, but it's certainly just the beginning. Just turning up to sessions like this should broaden your horizons into the different types of technologies that are out there. What I'm finding in the position that I sit in this organization is that integration is certainly the name of the game, and all of these platforms we've sort of talked about certainly integrate and integrate with systems like your CRM, your marketing automation suite. They're certainly all within the same ecosystem. So I continue to encourage you to look and explore by leveraging and utilizing your network, because, as I said at the beginning of this session, life's not fair. You are going up against the 800-pound gorillas in the market, which are your competitors, and by outsmarting them, by not paddling straight out into the surf and getting smashed in the shore break, take a minute, have a look around, look at the different resources that are in your environment and who's using what. Ask proactive questions around the resources that your peer set are using, and even the odds are a little bit. It certainly means a shift in behavior, but it's a constant shift in behavior to challenge your thinking and ultimately to become a better surfer. So yes, I will be spending some more time in the surf. Nicaragua is next on the list. And I wanted to personally thank you, Fergal, for setting up this session, Dan, for your contribution around Docurated, and then open it up to the floor for some for more questions. And I hadn't forgotten the pricing one, so we can jump to that when you like, Fergal.
Fantastic. Let's do a couple of questions, and then we will jump to the pricing. And just a reminder that this session is being recorded, and a link to it will be distributed to everyone. Also, all the slides will be made available to you. We have a good few questions, Dave, have come in around emailing prospects. And our audience are saying that, you know, a lot of prospects are getting up to 600 emails a day, and most of those emails are solicitations. And the audience are wondering if you've got any tips on how to get prospects to open their emails, something that grabs their attention.
Well, I think as we're all in sales and marketing, I can certainly share some insights into what I've found to be effective in that of our clients. But the simple part of it is that from the highest possible perspective is that hyper-targeting and relevancy with concise messaging is really the key that I found to be most successful. So what I mean by that is there is not one message that I could send out to 10,000 people today that would be spot-on relevant to each one of them. So I'm a big proponent of being hyper-focused on specific roles, functions, and business challenges within an organization, and I do my homework up front. I use email as one communication channel within a broader spectrum of a media mix. So I still am a firm believer in voicemail as one touch point, email as another, social media as yet another, and all the iterations around social media. What I find in email one-to-one communication is that anything that's image-laden that feels salesy typically is, and we're all now very, very immune to it as consumers of B2B content. We all get 600, solicitations a day, and we're pretty good filters. So think about whether just before you hit that send button, would you read your own email? Does it look like it's coming from a person or from a bot? Does it feel like the structure's there that gives me the why I should care and what you want me to do quickly enough so that within the first 5 seconds or less that I'm determining whether I'm going to delete the email or not, I know exactly what the value is and the so what factor. So we talk a lot about triggers, wedges, and proof points in the way to best structure email. So I'll just dive in on that just for 1 second. Triggers are the things that I talked about with Gauge In and Daily Vista. So understanding the triggers that are most relevant to your audience is really the first key. Audience identification and trigger identification of what challenges they're facing where you have an unfair advantage and right to a conversation. The wedges are really the door openers that you're going to use from a content marketing perspective to start the conversation. What value can you provide to that particular marketer or media owner that is significant enough for them to take interest in your email and getting to the next step? So from a first email perspective, it's really just generating top-of-mind awareness and curiosity. But keeping it very, very concise, like less than 3 paragraphs, and any action to be taken within the first 2 sentences is typically best practice from our experience. So you've got triggers, the wedges are your right to the conversation. Proof points are just that it's really just making sure you've got the social currency and trust that you've done it before and you've done it effectively. What typically happens is that structure of triggers, wedges, and proof points is inverted by most. Most business development emails start with, we're a great company, great agency, great firm. We've done work with X, Y, and Z, beating your chest. Then it gets to the trigger. I understand that you're experiencing this type of, or I assume that you're experiencing this type of problem. And then finally, here's how we can help. So just by changing the order and making it more concise and truly getting a best understanding of how to be hyper-targeted, those emails are much more frequently opened. But as a caveat to that entire piece, making sure that it's just one of the media mix that you're using to conduct outreach. And we do have a whole range of presentations specifically on that topic as well.